Hey folks, welcome back. Another Genshin Impact video. Today we're going to talk about Yelan again, because we haven't talked about Yelan enough, clearly, for the, past few days. So anyways, today I just want to talk a bit about our weapons in terms of bows, because I find it actually slightly interesting in terms of Yelan's weapon selection, because if you obviously, look at Yelan, right, and in terms of what Yelan needs and uses, right, if you look at her, stats, like, you only really just use HP percentage, right? It's generally just you want enough energy recharge, obviously, but outside of that, it's just really HP. Your elemental skill deals damage based on your percentage of your max HP. Your burst, the initial hit, does damage based on your max HP. The following, exquisite throw damage, which is again the bulk of your damage, right? Also does deal damage based on your max HP as well. Right, and it's just only your regular moves are well, even your charged attacks, right? Like your breakthrough barb, which is the main thing you're doing for the most part, right, is also based on your max HP. So everything Yelan is max HP based, which does mean that there are a lot of bows that are completely useless. Because let's be real, a lot of weapons in Genshin are based on, getting your attack as high as possible or whatever, right? Which attack stats, in Yelan's case, not very useful, right, at all. On the other hand, she does have, a lot of weapons that low-key would be completely useless on other characters that are actually really, really nice for Yelan, right? She shares a lot of really good bows with Diona. For some reason, actually, right? Rather than, being a damage dealer. And Diona, not that very much known for being a damage dealer. But anyways, let's go over these. So starting from our favorite Hunter's Bow, obviously one of the best weapons in the game. It does absolutely nothing. So there's Hunter's Bow, and then moving on, we got because there's actually a lot of 3-star weapons that low-key are really, really nice. Potentially, right? Seasoned Hunter's Bow. Season's Hunter's Bow is Hunter's Bow, but spicy and also not on the list because no one remembers it exists. Okay, cool. Anyways, moving on then. I put it in the pool. It's useless. All right. Actually, I guess I don't need a pool since I have everything down here. Anyways, moving on. Ebony Bow increases damage against Mechanoid rune opponents by 40% in that very, very specific scenario. Okay, sure. But if you look at its subset, it is attack percentage, so it's basically useless. Sadly, if I could even find it here. Is this it? Wait, is that the Seasoned Hunter's Bow? I don't know. What does the Ebony Bow look like again? I've never used it either. Does anyone know what it looks like? Actually, it looks kind of cool. I think this is it. Yeah, very, very much useless, sadly. Okay, moving on to the Messenger. Messenger is slightly interesting. Messenger is slightly interesting as a 3-star bow, because, again, all their stuff is mostly based on HP percentage, right? So when you are looking for bows that would help increase your damage, the only, 3, I guess, big substats, because attack percentage is not going to be one of them, is going to be either HP percentage itself, right? Crit damage or crit rate, right? Obviously, either of the crits. Elemental Mash increases it a bit as well, but again, we'll talk about that later. There are EMs, not whatever. Anyways, moving on. So Messenger being a crit damage substat bow is actually usable on Yelan, right? Because again, would you rather have Messenger that actually gives you some crit damage that so it makes it when you crit, your damage does a bit more, or for example, a 4-star weapon I don't know, Rust, that has attack percentage substat and then increases normal damage for no reason, decreases your charge damage too. So yeah, I'd say I'm taking Messenger 10 out of 10 times. That being said, even as 3-star bows, Messenger does still get outclassed by Sharpshooter's Oath, which is also crit damage, right? Increases damage against weak spot terms. Again, you're not really using her card attack, whatever, too much, right? You get outclassed by a fellow 3-star bow that has just better crit damage, right? So again, Messenger, it's going to be in the usable, but there's better options category, right? Sharpshooter's Oath is just like Messenger, but like better, right? And Sharpshooter's Oath, again, if you actually do the calcs, low key, could really get you some pretty solid numbers, right? In terms of your exquisite throw damage, right? So Sharpshooter's Oath low key is actually pretty nice of an option. I wouldn't say it's the best option, right, in terms of if you want to like a crit damage or sort of crit damage based bow, but like if you look at some of the other like crit damage based bows, like outside of the 5-star, because obviously the 5-star ones are you know, you got like Thundering Pulse and like Aqua Simulacra, right? But like outside of that, the 5-star bows, it's the highest crit damage bow, if I remember correctly, right? It's highest crit damage bow that's a non 5-star. So honestly, pretty good. I wouldn't even say it's usable. I'd say it's one of the better ones, right? I'd say it's one of the better. If I can only find where it is, I think this is it, right? Maybe we'll have like one tier between really good and like, you know, whatever, right? Let's go. Damn, bro, you can actually use this and it's not like terrible tier, and that'll be in it, right? So it's again really solid bow, the highest crit damage of all the options, or at least base crit damage. So yeah, low-key Sharpshooter's Oath 3-star bow, man. Better than like honestly most other like non 5-star weapons on you know, on this page. So moving on. Actually, did we put Raven's Bow in there, or did we put Sharpshooter's? They look very similar. I think we could put Sharpshooter's Oath. I think we're good. Anyways, whatever. Is this the Raven's Bow? Whatever. Moving on to the Raven Bow. Actually, let's open it up, see what it looks like. As a person who, to be honest, I don't really use these weapons too much. Alright, okay. That's, yeah, no. We put the right one in. So Raven's Bow, it is a secondary stat EM bow over here, right? So increases damage against opponents affected by Hydro or Pyro by 12%. Not the worst, right? In terms of, you know, it does increase opponents affected by Hydro or Pyro, which in Yelan's case, the opponent is affected by Hydro a lot. Sometimes Pyro too, but affected by Hydro a lot. So you do get that extra damage increase, which is nice, right? Which is nice. Elemental Mastery, though, I'm not a huge fan personally. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not like she can't use Elemental Mastery at all. She can use Elemental Mastery, right? It's just a lot of times she's the applicator of the element rather than the actual like trigger, right? Like a lot of times, like whether you're running her with like a Xiaoning, Hu Tao, or Yoimiya, Klee, I don't even know, Yaimiko, Official, whatever, this and that, Raiden. Yeah, it's the other guys are really triggering the reactions rather than you know, Yelan herself, right? So you'll get some here and there, right? But just because of how fast she generally applies it, it's not really, right, gonna be a huge concern. But I'll put it in the, let's go with like the usable, but there's better options, I guess, right? Because even if you are looking for like EM bows, there's better EM bows, right? If I can even find Raven's Bow isn't even in here. Yeah, I mean, come on, let's be real, it's kind of irrelevant, right? It's not that big of a deal. So even if it's not in here, damn, I guess this one's just missing some bows. It has the newest ones. That's why I picked this, because not a lot of the other ones have like the newest bows. But oh well, whatever. Moving on, I guess. If we find it later, we'll put it back in. Recurve Bow. Recurve Bow. This is the big one. This is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. Recurve Bow. HP percentage. One of the rare HP percentage bows. In fact, the only HP percentage bow in existence of the game, in terms of substats, right? Substats, obviously, there are you know, percentage stuff in certain passives, but in terms of substats, this is the only one. right? HP percentage bow, and it's actually a decent amount of HP percentage, right? When you do max it out. Defeating an opponent restores 8% HP. I mean, sure, I guess it heals you. Cool. But overall, right? Passive not super useful, but the substat's very good. It's one of the better options for Yelan over here, right? This is like actually really nice. Really nice of a weapon. Moving on. We have Slingshot. Slingshot low-key really nice too in terms of crit rate. It's not crazy high, right? This passive's not super useful, right? I mean, it's okay. It's not unusable, right? But again, as Yelan, you're not really using your normal charge attack that much. But you do have a crit rate weapon over here, right? 6.8 crit rate is not terrible, right? Especially if you compare it to some other options like the Viridescent Hunt, right? So it's nice. Right? It's definitely nice for, again, all your like non 5-star weapons, right? So slingshot's okay, right? If I could only find it. I just remember it looked really boring. Okay, there it is. Sorry. Well, of the 3-star bows, all 3 of these are actually really nice, right? Again, it really just depends on your artifacts, right? Which one you need a bit more. If you have a bit too much crit, overall, then obviously maybe something like a Recurve Bow would be nice. If you have too much HP, not enough crit value, you go for the other 2, right? So those are really good options. Relatively cheap, being all 3-star weapons. Everyone's probably pulled a pocketbook full of them. What's a pocketbook full? That makes no sense. I just made up that term. Anyways, regardless, good bows. Relatively cheap, very economic, friendly, all that stuff. So that's all the 3-star bows that we have over here. Moving on to 4-star bows. So this, we are entering the territory of, wow, trash. Because there's not a lot of 4-star bows that are really good for her. That being said, Stringless, actually pretty nice, right? Actually pretty nice. Stringless, increase the elemental skill and element burst damage by 24%. Obviously, that's a passive. And you have an EM subset, which, again, we've talked about before. EM subset, even though it's not the best, but it's also not completely useless. So I'd say Stringless is okay, right? Stringless is definitely usable. I'm not sure if I would really use it over any of these 3 overall, right? Because if you do, actually, let me recheck my calcs again. Never mind, I would remember the wrong numbers. I take it back. Stringless is actually really nice. Just again, the damage increase is just a lot. Especially, okay, it's really nice if you have Stringless at like R5. If it's R1, it's still okay. Right? But Stringless really comes into its own if you do have it at R5, right? In comparison to some of these other weapons up here, right? It's more comparable, right? R1's still fine, but R5 Stringless is actually really nice. In comparison to again, some of these other options, right? So never mind. Stringless is fine. I remember the wrong numbers. Anyways, moving on. Ally Hunter. Ally Hunter's okay, right? Ally Hunter's okay. It's just that overall, it's kind of like Stringless. It's basically Stringless, but like not as good because the damage increase cap is slightly lower, right? Stringless damage cap is better, that's for sure, right? Also, Stringless subset is a bit more useful than the Ally Hunter subset, but I mean it works on Yelan theoretically because of the fact that over here the passive is pretty nice for her because again when she's in the party, not on the field, she gets her stacks, right? And she's often not on the field. She is generally an off-field character. Come on the field, quickly use up her E's, Q, and then you swap, right? So to get those stacks are actually not that bad, but it just ends up being Stringless but worse, right? It's just Stringless but worse, I feel. So it looks cooler, I guess. Actually, I don't know. Stringless is pretty cool too, low-key. But that being said, Ally Hunter, solid, but Stringless is just better in this specific category, right? Moving on to Blackcliff Warbow, another crit damage right? Where the passive increases your attack percentage. So even though it's a 4-star crit damage stat stick, it's worse than the Sharpshooter's Oath, straight up. Sharpshooter's Oath is better as a 3-star weapon, right? Better than the Blackcliff Warbow being a 4-star, not even completely, it's semi-free to play-ish, sort of. I mean, you could get it completely free to play, but I mean, you have to, it costs Star Glitter, man. So yeah, it's usable, but there are better options. That being Sharpshooter's Oath, in this case. All right, moving on. Yelan's such a special character, man. It's insane. Compound Bow, physical damage bonus. Very, very nice subset there. Normal attack, charge attacks, blah, blah, blah. Increases attack. Wow. 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 Ladies and gentlemen, we found it. The most useless bow for Yelan. This is basically, this is not that different from a hunter's bow for Yelan, right? Physical damage bonus, useless. Normal charge attack increase, or normal charge attack hits increase the attack percentage, also useless. Attack speed, normal attack speed, also useless. This is literally a hunter's bow, for Yelan, unfortunately. China's compound bow though, I like its design. Moving on, Favonius Warbow. Favonius Warbow is one of the better weapons for Yelan, right? And again, it kind of depends on how much you need the ER, right? If you really need the ER, Favonius Warbow is fantastic, right? Favonius Warbow, because again, if you don't have your ult up consistently, Yelan's use decreases drastically, and not only Yelan's, you know, personal damage itself, if Yelan's usage rate decreases, right, then your entire team's damage decreases at the same time. So Favonius Bow, fantastic weapon. Again, if you don't have enough energy recharge, right? Especially if, again, a C0 Yelan where you don't have like 2 taps of her E, getting her energy back might be a bit more difficult, right? But again, there are also some scenarios where even like a C0 Yelan doesn't really need that much ER, right? If you're, for example, if you're running her in a team with enough, you know, other teammates that can help you regen some hydro particles, or you know, something like a Raiden team, right? Maybe like a Raiden national team, you should be generally fine on ER, right? But if you're not, right, if you're finding yourself, okay, even though I am doing a lot more damage, but I'm not getting my ult up every single time it comes off cooldown immediately, then you need better energy recharge, right? You need better energy recharge, and again, Favonius Bow, fantastic for this, right? Yeah, very high ER, right? The highest ER 4-star weapon, pretty sure, right? And then substat, and then yeah, you also have, you know, your crits that generate particles as well, right? Guaranteed at 5 out of 5. So yeah, this is just really good, right? Phone is fantastic for her. Moving on, prototype Crescent is also worthless, right? Basically, so sad, but you know, it is what it is. Completely worthless, straight up charge attack, weak points, movement speed. All right, okay, movement speed is cool, I guess. But for Yelan as an exploration character, but you're not that. No, not even for exploration, honestly. Royal Bow, attack percentage substat, useless again. Although upon damaging the opponent, it does increase your crit rate. A crit hit removes all stacks. Is something, right? It is something. It's not a lot. I'd say even if you are looking for a crit weapon, I'd say there are better options. Why don't I find Royal Bow here? Can I get a better pick? I don't have Royal Bow myself, so I'm not very used to it. No, I'm not tripping. It's straight up not here. Wow, they're missing some bows. Anyways, Royal Bow also not that much of a consideration, right? It's another case of being down here, I guess. Wait, actually, is this it? I think this is it. We got it, right? That's it. No, it's not. Never mind. I'm sorry for whichever that bow is. It's actually not here. It's actually not here. What can I do? I didn't upload this. I can't do anything about it. Actually, is it this? Is it this? But it looks like, you know, just like Ascended. Or Awakened. Yeah, it is that. Except Awakened. Right? I'm not tripping. I am not tripping. Okay, anyways, there we go. We're fine. What's that other one again? Oh, ain't no way, man. They got this using Hunter's Bow. It's just I've never ever seen the Awakened Seasons Hunter's Bow, so I never knew what it looked like. Do you blame me though? Do you blame me? And we do have the Raven's Bow over here as well, which makes sense because, you know, black red, very very much you know, Raven-ish like, right? So makes sense. All right, moving on to Rust. Useless attack percentage, normal attack damage. No, do not care. Wow. Completely useless. Sacrificial Bow. Here's another one. So the debate between Sacrificial Bow, right, and Favonius Warbow, that's a very, oh, I put it in the wrong tier. It's ER Central. Again, if you really need ER, right? These are those. Although you could argue it's in really good as well if you don't have enough ER, right? But if you do have ER, I think it's better than like almost everything minus probably her best in slot. But in terms of ER, right, the debate between like Sacrificial Bow and Favonius Warbow itself, right? If you're looking for pure how much energy you could get, again, it also depends on how much ER you had on your character beforehand, right? That affects it a bit. But in general, on average, Sac Bow does give you more energy, right? Sac Bow on average, not Sac Bow. I got it wrong. Favonius Bow on average does give you a bit more energy, but Sac Bow does give you a bit more damage on your elemental skill, and it's not like your elemental skill does like no damage. Yelan's elemental skill does solid damage, right? It depends on how much HP you have, but it does solid damage. So, and again, it's not like if Sacrificial Bows, you know, ER is energy regen is like terrible or whatever. It's great as well, right? Favonius Bow is just better. The other slight downside of Sac Bow is you are on field a bit longer, right? It's not like super long. You could just tap it. You don't have to do the whole E every single time. But yeah, it depends. If you really need more, right? You just try them both, right? Try them both yourself, right? If you don't get enough ER with Sac Bow, then you pick up Favonius Bow. If you have enough ER with Sac Bow, then use Sac Bow, because Sac Bow again gets you an extra hit on your E, which could do a bit more damage, which is pretty nice, right? So again, that's in my opinion how you should, you know, deal with that. Viridescent Hunt, another crit rate weapon that is has a lower crit rate than Slingshot over here. So that being said, the passive is not fantastic, but it's also okay-ish. The Cyclone's not that big of an AoE, right? So, also the damage, like, you ignore all the damage stuff, right? That has anything to do with attack percentage. But that being said, the Cyclone's okay, right? But would I really use Viridescent Hunt over Slingshot? Probably not, honestly. Again, the little Cyclone thing is cool and all, but it's not that impactful enough, you know, for me to warrant using it over like a higher crit rate weapon if I really do need crit rate, right? Windblume Ode, EM substat. After using elemental skill, receive a bloom from the ancient wish of the Windblume, increasing attack percentage by 16 seconds for 4 seconds. 6 seconds. Again, also I won't say completely useless, because EM is something, but also like not very useful. Moving on. I can't pronounce this, but physical damage bonus. Normal attacks hit opponents increase elemental skill damage by 20%. For 5 seconds, elemental skill hits increase normal damage. Substat completely useless. Yes, it does increase your elemental skill damage by 20%. I honestly put it in the, you know, useless tier, sadly. It's just like, it's not good. It's like the substat gives you nothing, right? Half of your passive gives you nothing. It's not enough to warrant using it, right? Again, if you do want extra damage on your elemental skill, just go for either Stringless or Ally Hunter, right? If you really want. And if you want to go for Ally Hunter, go for Stringless instead. All roads lead back to Stringless, basically. For bows that increase damage, right? Basically, Hamayumi, the free craftable, you know, Inazuma weapon, also completely useless, right? Increase your normal damage, charge attack damage. When your energy is 100, which means if you want these passives to be up, you have to not use your burst. Not only, or for the extra increase for the normal charge attack damage. Not only is this useless for Yelan, if you equip Hamayumi, you are actively hurting yourself. Hamayumi is terrible set. Wait, is that Hamayumi? Yeah, it is. Predator. Do we have Predator here? Oh, we do. Okay. Predator. Attack percentage. Effective only on PlayStation. Increases character's normal charge attack damage. Blah 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 blah. This is the Aloy Bow. Obviously, as Yelan, the Aloy Bow is very good on her. And by very good, I mean completely useless. Moving on, got Mouun. I don't know. So this is actually slightly interesting. This is the I guess Inazuma event limited bow that you could pull on banners, on weapon banners. For every point of the entire party's combined maximum energy capacity, the elemental and burst damage of the character equipping this weapon is increased by 0.12%. A maximum of 40% increased elemental burst damage can be achieved that way. Obviously higher with more refinements. So Mouun, whatever. So this weapon, right, doing the calcs, if you can max out its passive, right, which isn't super hard to max out, right, just throw in some like heavy, energy requirement units on your team, like a Raiden or whatever, right? Yeah, Miko, which again you could generally run her relatively well with those, something like a Sailing, whatever, right? So in those cases, right, if you do have a R5, like at the same refinements, the Mouun, whatever it's called, right, in terms of just strictly elemental burst damage, right, because that's all it really does. It only increases elemental burst damage. Strictly in terms of elemental burst damage, it would outperform a similar refinement level Stringless. That being said, it is relatively hard. For folks to get this weapon, and not only this weapon, but like higher refinements of this weapon. So again, if you do have a higher refinement Stringless, generally I'd say go with the Stringless. If you do have higher refinements of Stringless, right? But if you have the same refinements of both of these, I do think the Mouun bow thing is actually a bit better, right? So that's an option. Again, it's like you don't get the extra elemental skill damage, but again, the extra elemental burst stuff is definitely really nice to consider as well. Like of all the bows in this tier so far, I do think, assuming all are the same refinement levels, right? Assuming they're all R5, I do think this is probably the best one, right? Then maybe that, and then maybe Recurve, and then either of these, right? So definitely an option. It's just very expensive, right? Fading Twilight, the new event bow thing, whatever, right? So this one's slightly interesting, I find. So this one does have energy recharge as the subside. If you do compare it to the other two energy recharge bows, it's the same attack bow, right? And which in that case would be, lower than Favonius Bow. So this also increases your damage dealt, right? So when your attack hits opponent, switch next state. So like basically every second, I guess, right? It switches a state from 6 to 14%, well at R1, which I don't think we're getting, R1 here, right? Because everyone should be getting a, free refinement 5 over here. So you could actually, it's kind of like a best of both worlds sort of bow, I find, right? You get the energy recharge stuff that if you really need the extra energy recharge. And unlike something like a Favonius Bow, right? I guess you could argue that attack bow does damage by the nature of having one more E-charge, right? It does also increase your damage dealt, which is low-key pretty good. Low-key really nice. So Fading Twilight, I'd say, is probably one of the better bows that you could actually use on Yelan. And again, it's free. Looking at the calcs here, like if you do hit, like obviously it's like state number 1, the extra damage bonus increase you get is like less than like half of what you could get like eventually. At R5 it's actually 12%, 20%, and 28%, right? But like at like the first state it's obviously not anything great, but if you do, you know, eventually do, like even the second state's solid, but if you do get to the third state, you are approaching, and only approaching, you're not actually on average doing more, right? But you are approaching some of the bows over here, right, in terms of damage wise. But I think all of them do more, I'm pretty sure, right? Same, you know, R5, all that stuff. But that being said, right, you do have that extra energy recharge, which none of these other have, right? So if we are talking about energy recharge in terms of bows, I do think the new Fading Twilight might be the best option, right? It does on average give you the least energy recharge of all three of these, but it also gives you a lot more damage, right? So that to consider. Plus it's free. All right, now onto the 5-star bows. First of all, Skyward Harp. Is Skyward Harp as a crit rate substat weapon better than the mighty Slingshot, which has a 6.8 base crit rate and Crescent only has 4.8 crit rate? The answer is yeah, it's better. It is better. For future, unless you just really, unless you're like your crit value is like terrible, right? But like even so, right? Because the passive straight up gives you an extra 20% crit damage, right? Straight up gives you an extra 20% crit damage at R1. Let's just operate for like 5-star weapons. Let's just operate as if they're refinement 1, right? No refinements, right? No extra refinements on them. It's still better. It still performs better on average, right? On average, still performs better than the Slingshot. Thank God a 5-star weapon beat the Slingshot allegations, right? Is it better than some of the other weapons? Honestly, doing the calcs, it does give you similar numbers. An R1 Skyward Harp gives you similar numbers to an R5 Stringless, right? That being said, again, it really depends on how much crit rate you have, right? If you're running like a crit rate circlet or not, right? Or you're running whatever else circlet, because that could, you know, drastically change however much useful this is, right? I'd say overall Skyward Harp is a bit more consistent, right? Skyward Harp does is a bit more consistent, right? On average, probably would get you some better numbers than a Stringless, but still. Anyways, moving on, we got the great Amos Bow, which by great I mean worthless. Literally, look, attack percentage, increase normal charge attacks damage by 12%, right? Whatever, damage dealt increased by a further 8%, blah 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 blah. Every 0.1 seconds the arrow is in the air for up to 5 times. Amos Bow? Literally. What's the difference between Amos Bow and Hunter's Bow? For Yelan, right? Is there a real difference? I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. Is there a real difference between Amos Bow and Hunter's Bow on Yelan, right? If you're you know, you're not like C6 and just like DPS Yelaning, right? In terms of elemental skill and elemental burst wise, right? I'm not joking. I just to make 100% sure, I did the calculations. No difference in terms of elemental burst damage. Same damage. And obviously you don't even have to do the calculation for that, because again, the zero stat attributes to help increase any of your, again, elemental burst or skill damage. So nothing. It's literally a Hunter's Bow. It's literally a Hunter's Bow on Yelan. I'm sorry for all Amos Bow havers, but kind of a rough one. Moving on to Elegy of the End. So Elegy is slightly interesting because it is another energy recharge substat, and this one's not actually like bad. Like base 12 ER is better than, you know, the Fading Twilight's ER. It's better than what's the other one? A Sack Bow's ER, right? It's a bit lower than Favonius Bow's ER, but still, right? It's basically around Favonius Bow's ER. That being said, most of its passive, obviously, you know, revolves around increasing your own elemental mastery. And like we've talked about before, elemental mastery is not completely useless on Yelan, but also not crazy, right? So I feel like Elegy Bow, Elegy of the End, right? First of all, it looks fantastic. I love Elegy's design. It looks so cool. But outside of that, in terms of like being ER wise, right? If you want to talk about getting energy back, it's better than Fading Twilight in terms of getting energy back. Is it better than Sack Bow for getting energy back? Probably not, right? Considering, again, Sack Bow, you just get an extra tap on your E every, what, 22 seconds or whatever, right? Something like that. You do have the elemental mastery stuff going for it, but overall, I guess you would use it over Favonius Bow if it's enough energy recharge for you to use your ult every time it comes off cooldown. But otherwise, again, the reaction is nice. The reaction damage is nice, right? That extra, if you can hit them, right? If you can hit them, the extra bit of elemental like reaction damage is definitely not bad. But it's also not anything crazy either, right? Like, again, first of all, she doesn't really, you know, trigger reactions, first of all, that much. Again, she's more of a applicator, right? But even when she does trigger the reactions, the extra damage really isn't that much to really warrant it, in my opinion, to use it over Fading Twilight or Sack Bow, I guess, right? Like again, like just damage-wise, Fading Twilight is just overall, on average, is better, right? Again, unless for some reason you're on a team where Yelan herself triggers a lot of reactions, I guess there could be a scenario where it does outperform something like a Fading Twilight, but it looks cooler on Yelan than all the other bows. So like honestly, for the aesthetic points, I'd if I had Elegy of the End and my only options were Elegy, Fading Twilight, Sack Bow. Actually, Sack Bow kind of looks good on her too, and like Favonius Warbow, I would pick Elegy at the End. Again, they all perform similarly. I'd pick the one that looks the coolest, so there's that, I guess. Moving on to Thundering Pulse over here, the only thing you have to really look at over here with Thundering Pulse is crit damage percentage. It is 14.4 at base, which is a good amount, but it's also not like crazy high, right? If you do compare it to like, again, some of the other previous bows that we've seen with crit damage, like, yeah, it's more than Blackcliff, it's more than Sharpshooter's ult for sure, right? 100%. So like, would you use it over those two? I'd say definitely use it over those two if you have Thundering Pulse. As for the passive itself, don't even read it. Just 2 words: attack percent, normal attack damage bonus, which both are completely worthless for Yelan in this case. So yeah, I would say Thundering Pulse is definitely really nice just for being a stat stick, right? Just for being a stat stick, you know, over anything else. Actually, looking back at the calcs, I think I might have to split these tiers a bit. Thundering Pulse, okay, at R1, it doesn't really perform that much better than R5 Stringless. If they're both at R1, Thundering Pulse is better, right? But again, if you compare to like an R5 Stringless, yeah, let's split these tiers a bit. Yeah, let's move these guys down a bit, even though I like named this tier specifically for like these guys. All right, how about this? We'll keep these 3 in this tier, and then we'll like move these guys up here, right, into like the whatever really good tier, whatever you want to call it, right? And then we'll have the ER bows, our ER bows, right? Yeah, these are, if you have enough ER, you want damage. This is, if you have enough, well, no one ever has enough damage, but like if you don't have enough ER, pick up ER. ER is more of a priority, right? I'd say, in comparison. But yeah, it's good, but R5 Stringless in comparison, again, it really depends on your stats. It really does depend on your stats. Like if you have more, if you are running like a crit rate circlet instead, right? Then Thundering Pulse would be better, right? It's just really, it really depends on what artifacts we're running and dealing with over here, right? But I don't see like that big of a difference, right? in between these two, as good as they both are, right? Anyways, they're both good weapons, right? But I'm just saying, like, if you already have an R5 Stringless, you don't really have to like go out of your way to pull for like Thundering Pulse or whatever, right? Unless you're pulling for Thundering Pulse for someone else, but for Yelan specifically, right? Anyways, moving on. We got Polar Star. Polar Star is actually really nice, right? If we want to like compare, like someone like the best, I guess weapons, right? Outside of our best slot, Polar Star is definitely up there, right? Polar Star is definitely up there, I feel. Like with Polar Star, and if you could get like 20% crit rate on your like artifact subsets, you could almost hit like 100% crit rate, right? And on top of that, it also does give you the extra elemental skill and burst damage increase, right? So this other stuff is worthless. Again, it's attack percentage, whatever, right? But, you know, just this part plus this part is definitely nice, right? Again, the crit rate isn't like anything crazy, right? I mean, it's 7.2. It is better than Skyward Harp's, right? But again, also if you compare, you know, Skyward Harp does give you 20% crit damage, and then you know, the Polar Star only gives you like 12% increase in overall, you know, burst, skill damage and all, right? So, it is definitely really nice, right? Is it on average in terms of your damage at R1, is it better than against stuff like R5 Stringless or whatever the other ones, the Mouun Bow, whatever it's called, Mouun Bow, bro, I can't remember his name, man. Is it better than those bows? Again, it heavily depends on your artifacts, right? But on average, it's definitely up there, right? It's definitely up there. Again, stuff like Poce, like all these bows are really nice, right? I'd say. So yeah, Stringless, fantastic. Again, this is really good if you have high refinements on this thing, right? So all 5 of these, I'd say in terms of just damage wise, are definitely very much useful, right? And then obviously the best in slot is Aqua Simulacra. There's not too much debate about this. This outperforms all the other bows. And it's not even funny. Like, if you look at Aqua Simulacra over here, right? Obviously, you know, crit damage 19.2. Crit damage is the highest crit damage, right? That we have in the game in terms of bows, right? And then also increases your HP by an extra 16%. Obviously, higher HP, the more damage you do on average, all that stuff, right? So that's fantastic as well. And then you get an extra damage increase of 20%. Like this, again. Everything being said, Aqua's Simulacra is by far the best bow in terms of just pure dealing damage, right? Again, if you still have ER issues, honestly, if you pulled Aqua Simulacra and you have ER issues, just go grind just go grind some better artifacts, man. So you don't have ER issues, and then run Aqua Simulacra. But yeah, the damage is by far the best, right? By far the best. This is not much of an argument, honestly. But yeah, Yelan's bows are really interesting, right? Really interesting. You got some really nice options here in terms of doing damage. You got some really nice options in terms of doing ER, right? You got some really cool 3-star options that are also really nice as well, right? If you really don't have any of the other ones, right? Like honestly, if you have like if you have like a R5 recurve bow and you only have like a R1 or lower refinement stringless, right? Recurve bow actually outperforms. I'm not even joking. Recurve bow actually outperforms stringless, right? But obviously, again, if you do have the same refinements, right? Stringless is better, right? Although it's actually not even by that much, right? You know what? The more I look at the numbers, Recurve Bow as good as you know, Polar Star confirmed? No. No, I do think in general at the same refinement, Recurve Bow is definitely the weakest of all 5 of these, right? Definitely the weakest of all 5 of these. But if it does have more refinements, right, it is better than a few of them, honestly, at lower refinements. Like, I'm pretty sure at like R5 you compare it to like again, we're assuming the 5-star weapons are lower refinements. If any of these 5-star weapons have like at least 1 extra refinement, it's better than R5 Recurve Bow, obviously. But on average, right? On average, it could do, this is assuming you're using, like, again, either crit rate or crit damage circlet, right? It does more than Polestar at R1. Not Polestar, Thundering Pulse. I'm sorry, Polestar. Polestar does more. Polestar does the most out of the 5-star weapons, right? But that is pretty interesting, right? So again, the ER bows, right? You just rank them in terms of how much energy recharge they give and how much you need versus how much extra damage they also provide you, right? And that's how you, I guess, pick the ER bows. So I guess it's really just like 2 sets of bows that you're really looking for. Either the 4 sets of interesting and usable. Okay, let's be fair to Amos Bow. It's usable if you really just want to hit like those charge breakthrough barb shots, I guess. Whatever. It's not as bad as Hunter's Bow. But for, again, elemental skill, elemental damage, it literally is the same as Hunter's Bow, but, yeah, outside that. But, anyways, 4 sets of bow, either you have Aqua Simulacra, which, you know, is everything in terms of, like, a damage-stealing bow, or you pick one of the ER bows if you don't have enough, energy to charge them, and then you pick, you know, either if you don't have enough ER, you pick the higher ER ones. If you have enough ER, then pick up the ones that do a bit more damage, right? And then you have the set of really nice damage dealing bows, right? Whether it's, again, Polestar, any of these other 5-star bows, Stat 6, or Recurve Bow at R5, or the Mouun Bow if you do have it at higher refinements, or Stringless, right? If you have at R5 as well. And then you got like cheap 3-star other options that are also usable, right? So yeah, and then you have the other, like, there's something in here, but there's also just better options, right? So anyways, that's me this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed. Guys, think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy the video, so my channel, some more Genshin Impact content. I know it was a pretty long video, but I thought I went in pretty extensively about every single bow in the game. So Yelan's very interesting. Got a lot of very interesting bows. Maybe I missed a few things here and there. Maybe I got something wrong. Let me know in the comments down below, right? So have fun, folks, and I'll see you guys in the next one.